On this Friday night, sounding the alarm about a new COVID-19 variant.
It has a very high number of mutations.
Why scientists warn it could be the worst strain yet as Canada shuts the door on travelers from southern Africa. Trans-mountain pipeline problems, the latest setback in BC's fight for fuel. The supply chain crisis takes a bite out of Black Friday.
A lot of stuff is out of stock.
The warning to procrastinating holiday shoppers. And welcome to Canada, Captain Smiley.
Our thing is awesome.
A former Canadian military worker's new mission after escaping Afghanistan.
Global National with Donna Friesen. Reporting tonight, Jeff Semple.
Good evening and thank you for joining us. We begin tonight with the new COVID-19 variant that some scientists are warning could be the worst yet. It's called the Omicron variant, first detected in South Africa. It has a large number of mutations, twice as many as the dominant Delta strain, and the WHO has now labeled it a variant of concern. Dozens of countries, including Canada, are imposing tough new border restrictions to try to slow the spread.
We are banning the entry of foreign nationals into Canada that have traveled through Southern Africa in the last 14 days.
Now, the new variant is currently concentrated in South Africa, but cases have been confirmed in several other countries, including Botswana, Hong Kong, Israel, and Belgium. We'll have more on what we know about the Omicron in just a moment, including questions about its spread and vaccine effectiveness. But first, we begin with Goomansingh on Canada's new travel restrictions and how the rest of the world is responding.
Just as travel was resuming, Omicron has arrived. The concerning new variant now prompting new Canadian travel restrictions. Foreign nationals who have traveled through 7 countries, all in southern Africa in the past 2 weeks, will no longer be allowed to enter the country.
We really want to make sure that we do all we can and need to do to protect the health and safety of Canadians.
There are also restrictions for recent arrivals. They must quarantine immediately for 14 days. Canadian citizens and permanent residents can fly home, but must get a COVID test in transit. An additional test will be required on arrival, as will a stay in a designated quarantine hotel while awaiting results. If test results are negative, travelers can leave the hotel, but must quarantine at home for 14 days.
For now, it is just these 7 countries, but we will constantly reevaluate and assess.
Fears of this new strain spreading widely are leading to travel bans right around the world. The UK, the US, India, and the EU are all using isolation as a means of protection.
It is now important that all of us in Europe act very swiftly, decisively, and united.
Belgium was the first European country to identify an infection. The Omicron variant has also been identified in Botswana, Israel, and Hong Kong, leading to questions about the effectiveness of travel bans on Africa.
I think we have to recognize that most likely this virus is already in other places. And so if we shut the door now, it's going to be probably too late.
I was happy to see my family, but I want to get home to my husband and my kids now.
Emotions are high, with travelers now concerned they'll be stranded abroad like we saw at the start of the pandemic. World leaders say the restrictions will buy time to better understand this new mutation. It's unclear how long the new travel restrictions will be in place or if more countries will be added in the coming days. The sudden uncertainty and so many changes so quickly, a reminder that the pandemic is still far from over. Goomansingh, Global News, London.
Canada's public health agency says Canadian labs are screening for Omicron, and so far, no cases have been detected. Sorensen has the latest on what we're learning about the variant and why scientists are concerned.
The new Omicron variant spread quickly in southern Africa. It may be the most contagious form of COVID so far.
A variant of serious concern, which is now driving this spike in numbers.
It's not known yet if Omicron will be more severe. The World Health Organization has designated it a variant of concern, which triggers new surveillance, new studies, new reporting from countries around the world.
This variant has a large number of mutations, and some of these mutations have some worrying characteristics.
The Omicron variant has an estimated 50 mutations, most on spike proteins, many more mutations than the Delta variant. There's concern Omicron may be more transmissible. A further concern, will vaccines and natural immunity offer as much protection now?
Due to the potential for increased transmissibility and the possibility of increased resistance to vaccine-induced protection, we are concerned about this new variant and closely monitoring the evolving situation.
Some epidemiologists say we should not overreact in this country because vaccines will certainly make a difference.
We have a wall of immunity, and even if there is a new variant, it's not going to be easy for it to rip through the area like it did with Delta.
But worldwide, there aren't enough vaccines. Globally, 7.9 billion shots have been administered, about one dose for every person on Earth. But the inequity is apparent. Most countries are well along, but Africa clearly is not. In Canada, 78% have received at least one vaccine. In all of Africa, just 10%. That's where this mutation occurred. News of Omicron sparked a sell-off on world markets. Coupled with new international travel restrictions, it's evidence that a new variant anywhere affects nations everywhere.
Until there is a sustainable vaccine strategy for everyone in this world who wants a vaccine, we're going to be dealing with this problem over and over and over again.
Infectious disease experts say it's too early to draw conclusions about the severity of Omicron, but it bears repeating that the best way to minimize its impact is widespread vaccinations. Eric Sorensen, Global News, Toronto.
Overall, Canada's COVID-19 situation remains relatively stable, though case counts are creeping up again. Ontario reported 927 new infections today. That's the highest daily count in nearly 3 months. And Quebec reported more than 1,000 new infections for the first time since May. The pandemic has also seen a spike in abuse and harassment against healthcare workers. Well, now the federal government is introducing legislation promising to crack down.
Every day, healthcare workers are coming forward and speaking out. They are exhausted, they are discouraged, and they are fearful.
The Justice Minister says Bill C-3 is a direct response to the harassment, intimidation, and even death threats that frontline workers have faced. If passed, it would make it illegal to intimidate a healthcare worker or anyone else seeking healthcare services. Those found guilty could face up to 10 years in prison. Turning now to the situation in flood-ravaged British Columbia. Prime Minister Justin Trudeau is in the province tonight to see firsthand the damage caused by last week's powerful storm.
This has been the operations center from
This is the brains here, right here.
Trudeau started his visit in Abbotsford, meeting with the city's mayor. That community was hit hard with massive flooding in the Sumas Prairie. The region is home to some of the most fertile farmland in the country. The Prime Minister will spend the rest of the day touring areas affected by flooding before heading to Victoria to meet with the province's premier. Now, that flooding and looming storms appear to be delaying attempts to restart the Trans Mountain pipeline. The line moves oil and gas from the Edmonton area into the lower mainland. It's been shut down for 12 days, the longest in the pipeline's nearly 70-year history. The company says it hopes to restart the line at reduced capacity next week. Heather Yourex-West explains.
To see the pictures is to realize how close the Trans Mountain pipeline came to disaster. In the Coldwater Valley near Merritt, flooding exposed lines of pipe normally buried underground.
Which then leaves it vulnerable to, being hit by falling rocks or other debris that might cause either a small leak or a complete break in the line.
After the flooding, Trans Mountain shut down the pipeline as a precaution. No breaks or spills have been detected so far, but parts of the network accessible in places only by air have needed extensive repairs. The company says rain and snow are now making it difficult for this work to proceed, prolonging the pipeline's longest shutdown in its nearly 70-year history.
While construction on the Trans Mountain Pipeline expansion project is continuing in areas not impacted by flooding, here in Abbotsford, work has stopped.
To help maintain BC's supply of gasoline, refined fuel has now been barged in from the U.S. But without pipeline access, Alberta producers are now forced to store an oversupply.
It hurts, and the more days it's down, the more inventories are going to back up in the Alberta region.
And when inventories back up and tanks fill, that leads to wider differentials and lower prices.
The Trans Mountain Pipeline opened in 1953 and experienced leaks and damage due to landslides within its first full year of operation. Between 1961 and 2013, there have been 81 spills along the lines of various sizes, with one of the largest occurring after a landslide near Merritt in 1971. That spill caused the pipeline to shut down for a week. This time, with more rain in the forecast, the pipeline will likely be down for 2 weeks or more.
The only thing I think we can say for sure is that if this kind of weather and these kinds of unstable conditions become more common, then closures of the line are likely to be more common.
Raising questions around whether this pipeline can remain viable if this becomes our new climate reality. Heather Yourex-West, Global News, Abbotsford, BC.
And that region is now bracing for 2 more storms on the horizon. Let's go straight to Global News senior meteorologist Christy Gordon. So Christy, how much more rain is expected this weekend?
Well, Jeff, this region has seen an extraordinary amount of rainfall so far this fall. 3 locations have already broken rainfall records. Now, we've had 6 atmospheric rivers. This is much earlier in the season than we would typically see. As well, several of them have been incredibly intense. Now we've got 2 more on deck. The next one will move in on Saturday, with the heaviest rain expected Saturday night into Sunday morning. By the time we reach Sunday evening, we could see anywhere from 60 to 90 millimeters of rain in regions like the Fraser Valley, which right now are incredibly vulnerable to any added moisture. In addition, the mountains surrounding the region could see in excess of 100 millimeters of rain. And these atmospheric rivers bring in mild flow. So this causes the freezing levels to soar. We've had fresh snow in the mountains as of late. We are expecting a significant portion of that snow to melt and to add to the runoff. Now, beyond this weekend, we have another system on deck. That one is set to push in on Tuesday, so very little break in between. And by the time we head towards the end of November, we will likely see a number of other regions break rainfall records.
Global News senior meteorologist Christy Gordon. Thanks, Christy. A warning to procrastinating holiday shoppers. Coming up, why some Black Friday bargain hunters were left disappointed. Welcome back. Around the world, millions of shoppers went online and into stores looking for the best Black Friday deals. With pandemic lockdowns lifted, many consumers were eager to get back to bargain hunting this year. But as Jennifer Johnson explains, supply chain issues could interrupt that holiday shopping spree.
Lined up and hungry to hunt for deals, Black Friday shoppers flooded malls across the U.S. and parts of Canada.
We kind of wanted the experience of going out just early in the morning, just to get a little feel for it.
Last year on Black Friday, COVID-19 forced bargain buyers to stay home. This year, boosted by vaccines, holiday buyers are shopping early, fearing global supply chain issues will limit what's available.
The supply chain is definitely impacting both online and brick and mortar, but the key is when you can shop in person, you can take it home with you.
As container ships sit idle out at sea, experts warn procrastinators not to wait this year. A Retail Council of Canada survey found 36% of Canadian shoppers are buying their gifts this month. Another 30% say they started shopping before November. But the blockbuster deals of years past may be harder to find.
They are never sure what inventory they're going to have on what day. So the idea of them being able to promote well in advance particular products like door crashers is pretty well being negated this year.
Popular board games and toys like Lincoln Logs and Legos will be in shorter supply because plastic pieces aren't getting delivered to factories. There are issues too for popular big ticket items, so you may want to consider going low tech this holiday.
It's always the Xboxes, the Nintendos, all of those electronic items, but it's going to be a little bit harder to get them this year because the semiconductor chip is in short supply.
According to Accenture, Canadian shoppers are expected to spend 23% more than last year. But in the U.S., the National Retail Federation estimates spending may only rise about 10%, as inflation, the highest in 30 years, puts the squeeze on shoppers. Retailers are trying to hold down prices.
We've gone through these inflation cycles many times in the past. We've been working with our overseas suppliers to get costs down.
Shoppers need to be ready for whatever is not out there. So maybe try sending Santa a second or third gift idea in case the supply chain backlog hits his workshop too. Jennifer Johnson, Global News, Washington.
From Kandahar to Canada. Next, an Afghan refugee begins a new chapter with new challenges. Tensions between Ukraine and Russia have taken a dramatic turn with allegations of a coming coup. The Ukrainian president claims his officials have uncovered a plot by a group of Russians to overthrow his government as early as next week. He says Ukrainian intelligence obtained audio recordings that suggest one of Ukraine's wealthiest businessmen is also involved. In recent weeks, Ukraine and Western allies have raised alarm over Russia's military buildup near its border with Ukraine. Both the Kremlin and the Ukrainian oligarch have denied any involvement. Well, for weeks now, we have heard heart-wrenching reports from inside Afghanistan, but there are also stories of hope. Last month, we first introduced you to Mohammed Ismail, also known as Captain Smiley. His family was hiding in a safe house, terrified the Taliban would find them. Ismail spent years protecting Canadian soldiers, and now those veterans have returned the favor. They helped Ismail escape Kandahar and start a new life in Canada. Mohammed Ismail's family just arrived in Toronto, enjoying some fresh air and breathing easier after escaping Afghanistan. For a long time, I was afraid the Taliban would come and kill my husband, Pahima says. For 6 years, Ismail provided security for the Canadian military in Kandahar. The soldiers nicknamed him Captain Smiley. Why Captain Smiley?
Captain Smiley, all the time I smiling.
But his was serious work.
So he was instrumental in helping to keep everything secure and safe around the base.
Randy Scott worked alongside Ismail, and the two became close.
They saved our bacon on more than one occasion.
Assalamu alaikum, how are you?
We took Ismail and his son for a tour of their new home city.
I see city, a tall building, this will be great.
Before arriving in Canada, Ismail's family had never left Afghanistan, never seen a skyscraper, a streetcar, or even a squirrel.
It's good city, good place, very clean, green, and everything is awesome.
Awesome and overwhelming.
Okay, ready? Let's go.
Almost everything here is foreign, unfamiliar. Ishmael can't read English, and his family arrived with little money.
Yeah, it's very different, and that's been hard.
Wahadat Wish knows the feeling.
At that time when I arrived, there was no one to help me.
The former military interpreter moved to Toronto with his family in 2011. For 8 years, he struggled to find steady work.
I went to depression.
But a couple of years ago, Wish got a full-time job and his situation improved, thanks in part to support from a familiar friend.
Assalamu alaikum. Respect to you. How are you, my friend?
Randy Scott worked with both men in Kandahar. He lives near Vancouver, and within days of Ishmael arriving in Toronto, he connected him with Wish, who offered to help.
I'm very happy Captain Ismail is here with us.
That's be very good for me. I come in very happy, what can I say?
And there's services and there's some funding available and things like that. But it takes a community to help welcome them and to help them to become established and to get back up on their feet, as it were.
Hockey puck. Government data shows first-generation refugees typically struggle, but their children are much more likely to thrive. And for that reason, Ishmael says, there's no looking back.
I try my best. How can I do good thing in this country?
And you can watch our full documentary on Captain Smiley's fight to escape Afghanistan and start a new life in Canada. That's tomorrow night at 7 o'clock on The New Reality, right here on Global. Nova Scotia's population calculation. Next, the small province gets set for a major milestone. Nova Scotia is on the brink of a historic milestone. It's just a few hundred people away from marking a population of 1 million. Analysts say it will help the province market itself and bolster its economy. Ross Lord reports on what's driving the population boom.
Okay, so now
with your partner.
Long before she moved to Halifax and started taking English language lessons, former Syrian refugee Noura Al-Tawil was intimidated by coming to Canada. 5 years later, she says her family loves it here. Among the benefits, free public school for one of their sons who lives with autism, an option they wouldn't have in war-torn Syria.
I have all my human rights here. It's not, in Canada, they look to you not where are you from. They look you, the human.
Accepting more Syrian refugees per capita than most Canadian provinces has helped Nova Scotia edge closer to a coveted milestone, a population of 1 million. Nova Scotia will join 6 other provinces in eclipsing the 1 million mark. Nowhere close to Ontario at the upper end, and still some work to do to reach Saskatchewan at the lower side, but well past the territories and the other 3 Atlantic provinces.
And 1 million sounds good, doesn't it?
This marketing analyst says it will also make Nova Scotia more attractive to people from other parts of Canada who've already been moving to the province in greater frequency during the pandemic. It's not all upside.
It's going to put, absolutely going to put some strain on healthcare. It's going to put some strain on transportation.
But still worthwhile if it makes up for the trend of more Nova Scotians passing away than being born, and young people moving away to find work.
Nova Scotia is unfortunately known as an out-migration province, but the immigration is certainly something that we absolutely need.
The changing face of Nova Scotia society is reflected in growing niche sections of grocery stores and in more citizenship ceremonies. Noura herself plans to apply for Canadian citizenship soon after completing this round of language lessons. Ross Lord, Global News, Halifax.
1 million reasons to celebrate. And that is Global National for this Friday night. I'm Jeff Semple. Christmas is still a few weeks away, but that doesn't stop everyone from decorating early. So we leave you tonight with the vibrant lights of the Bright Nights display in Vancouver's Stanley Park. The holiday staple was put on pause last year due to the pandemic, but starting tonight, it is welcoming visitors back and brightening their day. Thank you for watching. Robin Gill will be back at the anchor desk with you tomorrow. Have a great night.